Uh-oh, that's right. Yep. Let's back up and go back to our cover slide.
Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, folks, I hope you're hearing us this time. This is the first class in our COVID Constellation Conference 4. And it's under the main title, Successful Investing 4. The title of the class is Selection, Challenges, and Groundhogs. I'll be joined today by my good friend, Mark Robertson, from a little bit south of where I live in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Mark, say hello to everybody.
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
And I hope you're all hearing us now. We had lots of you telling us you couldn't hear us. We were 2 or 3 slides into the whole presentation, folks. So here we are starting over again, and I hope that Puxatawny Phil can follow us as we reimagine where we're going with this particular class right here.
And Ken, I got to take credit for not putting us in barrels on the edge of that waterfall again.
Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's Tequamanon Falls up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, one of the highest waterfalls in the eastern United States, and not known by a lot of people outside the state. Let's go to our disclaimer here. I was coming up for the word here. It's a sign of something. I don't know what it is. We will be talking about real stocks in real time today. And the stocks that we're going to talk about are being used for illustrative purposes only. We are not making any recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any securities. Some of the names of the stocks that we're going to mention, we might actually hold in some of our own portfolios. We'll try to let you know. But the whole purpose of today, and in fact, any of our educational presentations, is for you to learn how to evaluate stocks for yourself. Do the work, do the homework, and come to your own conclusions about whether they're appropriate for holding or selling from your portfolio. If you did not receive reminders about this conference and would like to start receiving reminders about our events in the future, then drop an email to my wife at nkavula1@comcast.net. Natalie will add you to our guest list. If you did receive a reminder about signing up for these conferences, then you're already on our guest list and you don't have to do anything more. If you'd like slides from this particular class, a note to Mark R. at manifestinvesting.com will get you the slides, and we will be posting all 4 of the classes on our YouTube channel. The YouTube title is Manifest Investing Roundtable. You can go to that channel, you can subscribe to that channel, and then you'll get reminders each time we post something new to that channel. Since they're going to be posted there, you'll be able to access these presentations whenever you'd like and as many times as you'd like. So let's get started again on our first slide. Here's our conference agenda, the 4 classes. 2 o'clock today, we're doing stock pickers, groundhogs, and long-term investing. At 4 o'clock today, we're going to be talking about 20 questions about investing and about investment clubs. At 2 o'clock tomorrow, finding and profiting from small companies, and we'll be featuring our list of the best small companies from the viewpoint of Mark and Ken. Our panel, our Let's Talk Stock panel, will be at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, and we're going to give you lots of ideas from 7 pretty decent stock pickers. We hope that you can join us. That's usually not only an enlightening presentation, but it's also an entertaining presentation. Let's move on then to the first slide in this presentation, where we're reminding you of what it is that we've been experimenting with for the last 80 years. Mark, why don't you walk us through what we think is important?
Yeah, it basically comes back to the young men who walked into George Nicholson's office back in October 1940-ish and said, I want to form an investment club, and his insistence that they treat it in a very business-like manner. And that that actually became the Mutual Club of Detroit. I eventually became a member of that in the mid-1990s. But what Nicholson encouraged, first of all, and we'll be talking about this all weekend also, is just this notion of there's so much information and so much chaos, perhaps even more than ever. And he really suggested that we focus in on what really matters, what's really important. And these were kind of the four. We say these in different ways, but invest regularly, stay invested, basically buy the best companies out there, find them and own them for as long as it makes sense to do so. And this notion of prudently diversifying by company size and by industries, and basically know what you own and be an exceptional steward of the companies that you do choose to own after studying them. So yeah, it's over 80 years of doing this, and it's just phenomenal watching you guys do this. It's just so much fun. All right. I think you want to celebrate a little bit here, Ken.
We're going to celebrate. The balloons are rising to the top of the room, and we're going to celebrate some of our anniversary clubs. I ask you to indulge us just a little bit as we talk a little bit about things specific to my chapter, Mid-Michigan, because after all, this is the Mid-Michigan chapter co-sponsoring this event. And our directors and our friends do an awful lot of work to keep our programs going within the chapter and to make sure that our members get served in as painless and entertaining a way as we can possibly dream up. We have some really, really great anniversaries to deal with. The Bawbees Investment Club out of Hillsdale, Michigan has been running strongly now for 65 years. And one of the gentlemen from Bawbees is a director in our chapter. His name is Don Scoville. And Don is also a charter member of the Bawbees Investment Club. So congratulations to those gentlemen from Hillsdale. The Midland J-Vesters have been at it for 60 years. And again, we congratulate them for their staying power. They've certainly contributed an awful lot to our chapter. We've had them at events. We've had them give us great ideas for doing things just a little bit differently than we might have imagined doing them. And we're so happy whenever we can come across the J-Vester to pick their mind. We have the Tri-County Investment Club out of Hudsonville. They're new to the old Mid-Michigan chapter, but the new Mid-Michigan chapter, which now includes the Capital Area chapter, the Western Michigan chapter, and the Northern Michigan chapter. The new Mid-Michigan chapter welcomes the Tri-County investors out of Hudsonville. We're so glad your golden anniversary is here, and we'd love to help you celebrate your Diamond Jubilee when it comes along. Big Rapids Investment Club is in our contest that we've been celebrating. Big Rapids Club has been around for 35 years. That's Ferris State University, Big Rapids, Michigan. Spring Lake, Michigan, over on the western side of the state, the Taurus Investment Club, 35 years. The Cherry Capital Investment Club, one of our directors in this club, Herb Lemcole, out of Traverse City, 30 years. The Holly Rollers Stock Club in Grand Rapids, 30 years. The Red Cedar Investment Club from Holt. Red Cedar River runs right through that area. That's the East Lansing area, the Michigan State area, 30 years. The Porta Value Model Investment Club up in Elk Rapids. They've been around for 25 years, and they've been a model club for the last 3 or 4 years. And we have a number of directors up there, Donna Lane, Charlene Hansen. They're both in that club, and we congratulate them on their quarter of a century of being a club. And we have more coming on the next page here. We have the Women's Investment Network in Petoskey. I have visited this club a couple of times over the years, and this is certainly a group of very, very bright, very with it women up in Petoskey that have been investing for 25 years. Women Obtaining Wealth, I think that's wow. out of Hazlitt, that's the East Lansing area, 25 years. The Ithaca Investment Club, right in the middle of the state, for 25 years. The Street Smarts, Mark and I visit the Street Smarts probably once every other year, and we're always welcomed as honored guests, and we have a wonderful time. 25 years. The Women's Investment Network out of Mount Pleasant. This is a group of women associated with Central Michigan University, and they've been doing this for 20 years. The Stocks Club, I used to call this a brand new club out of Grand Blanc. They're only about 15 miles from my home, 20 years. The Capital Area Real Money Model Investment Club, that's quite a mouthful. This is Karmic, and they've been around for 15 years, and we have directors from Karmic. We're so happy to have them on the board. This is the old Capital Area chapter. The Triple D Investment Club out of East Grand Rapids is celebrating 10 years, and the Basic Investment Club out of Hillsdale, Michigan, celebrating 5 years. That's an awful lot of clubs with milestone anniversaries, and we congratulate each and every one of them. I wish we could do this in person. I wish I could be shaking your hand and telling you how proud we were of your achievements, but this is going to have to do, guys and ladies. It's as good as we can do until next November. Put it on your calendar now. See you November 2022 for the Stock Pickers Breakfast. Go on, Mark.
I was just thinking we could elbow bump through our screens or something. Yeah, it would be really cool to get in a room with all these people. I have to say, I am just absolutely stunned the number of these clubs that I've been to. I would say most of them. And what a phenomenal bunch of investors. Congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, it's so important that we've been visiting clubs for about 25 years now, well before it became something that was required. And when you visit clubs on a regular basis, you learn what's bothering them. You learn what the successes are. You learn what kind of support they need. And if you're out there listening and we haven't been able to visit your club because you're new to our chapter, drop me an email, kcavula1@comcast.net, and we'll try to make sure that a director gets to your club within the next year, just to sit and chat about what's concerning you and how your portfolio is doing. It's great fun for us, and it's really great fun for the club as well, we find. How about our next slide, Mark?
And a source of ideas.
Great source of ideas, great source. We're almost 2 weeks into our 2022 annual Stock Pickers Contest. That's our 20th anniversary contest, and we're certainly going to try to pull out all the stops for our 20th anniversary party this coming November. The contest is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be cutthroat. It's meant for people to have a good time, and it has a king that runs it. And I play king most years, and that means that don't give me a rough time. I'm a volunteer, and we're just trying to have a good time. We give each person, each club, $100,000 in imaginary money. We tell them to pick 5 to 15 stocks. We set a couple simple rules. We allow them to trade 3 times during the contest time, and we stipulate when that's going to happen. 1 entry per club. We give huge prizes of $100 to the first place winner and $50 to the second place winner, and bragging rights to the third, fourth, and fifth place winner. So you're not doing this for any financial remuneration or any great jewels or gold or anything like that. You're doing it for bragging rights, and it's a wonderful, wonderful source of ideas, and that's what we're going to talk about today, this contest being a source of great ideas. Next slide, Mark. Here's the way the clubs finished in this contest. Notice those ladies from Cass City. The name of their club is HER, H-E-R, and they're very strict. If you want to know what HER stands for, you must talk to one of the members of the club. I'm not allowed to divulge what her stands for. You have to talk to Geraldine or one of the friends in her club, and she'll let you know. Look at what those ladies did in 12 months. They almost doubled their money, a 96.24% return over an exact 12-month period from November 1st, 2020 to October 31st, 2021. Those other people in the top 5 are doing pretty well. 660 from Midland. You're not eating bananas or anything. That's 60% return, and I think we'll take it. Northern Traders from Traverse City, Cherry Capital from Traverse City, plus 50%, and Antique Warehouse from Saginaw, almost 50%. When the benchmark is doing 40%, and we use the VFINX, that's a index fund that represents the Standard & Poor's 500, when the benchmark is doing 40%, it's tough to beat. And ladies and gentlemen, we had 10 of our 27 entries beat that benchmark. Those of you that only did 25% or 20% return, I don't want you to feel bad about what happened at all. If you can keep a 20% return going on a regular basis, then you've discovered something that will result in really nice returns over the long term. For those 10 clubs above the benchmark, my hat is off to you. You're just doing wonderful, wonderful things in stock picking. This is a short-term contest. It's directly opposite what we ask you to do as a better investor and what we ask your investment club to do with long-term holdings. This is recreation. And as we turn from recreation to serious making of money, we feel that there's some things you can learn from this recreational activity. Next slide, Mark. Here's where geographically those 5 clubs in the top 5 are located. Michigan is shaped like a mitten, for those of you that don't know, and that little nub on the right-hand side is called the thumb, sticks up into Lake Huron, helps form Saginaw Bay on the western edge of the thumb, and that's where Cass City is located, named after Lewis Cass, the boy genius out of the 1800s, who was one of the first governors of Michigan. 660 in Midland, Michigan, home of Dow Chemical, right in the middle of the state. Northern Traders and Cherry Capital, both up in Traverse City. This is the place that my wife and I probably enjoy more than any other place in the entire world, except maybe Charleston, South Carolina. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you've never visited Northwest Michigan and spent 2 or 3 days in the lakes and traveling the wine trails and walking around the small towns, you must put it on your to-do list for the next 5 years. And the Antique Warehouse down in Saginaw, Michigan, on the Saginaw River, which feeds into Saginaw Bay right now. These ladies are all associated with a business called the Antique Warehouse, where they sell antiques in little booths within a large structure. I'm sure you've seen the business model before, and these ladies are pretty darn good stock pickers. There's no doubt in my mind about that at all. Next slide, Mark. Here's that her portfolio. And folks, I want you to glance down the right-hand side of the column. They didn't hit 1 home run or 2 home runs. They hit 3 home runs in their 7, I think they have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, they have 7 stocks. And you might call that one that Mark marked VMC, you might call that a good solid double or triple. Look at the appreciation of NTLA, 461% appreciation in 12 months. 165 in Upwork, and 51% in MyTech. If we could end up with 150% plus in any given year in our portfolio, then I count that as success for my portfolio. Here they are picking 3, and one of them with phenomenal results. I bet you'd like to know just a little bit more about those 3 companies. So let's spend just a couple of moments talking about what they do. MyTech is a name you've probably never heard of before, but if you are really into fintech, that's financial technology, then you probably have already used MyTech and its systems. If you haven't used it, I'll bet you your sons or daughters or grandsons or granddaughters have definitely used it. This is using your camera to make deposits in your checking account. And this technology is being used by 99.9 plus % of all the banks in the country. It seems like just a one-trick pony, but MyTech has built out this digital dealings between you and your bank and turned it into all kinds of associated products as well. They're deeply into digital identity verification, and they're doing all kinds of special things that you can now use your phone with and use it in a pretty secure manner so that you're reasonably certain you're not going to be hacked in the whole process. That's MyTech. You can see that it's a very small company, and its ticker is MITK. Next slide, Mark. Here's the second home run they hit. This is Intellia Therapeutics at TLA. It's also a very small company, and essentially what Intellia does is it uses a brand new therapy called CRISPR, CRISPR. And if you've never heard of CRISPR therapy before, think of editing genes and then using those edited genes to edit the DNA in different applications. CRISPR technology is on the cutting edge of drug discovery. It's on the cutting edge of treating all types of diseases that are unique biologically to the different people that have them. You know, for example, that there's not one kind of cancer, and we're finding that we can tailor make therapeutics using this CRISPR technology based on your own genetic code. This is exciting stuff, and it's going to get only more exciting in the next 20 or 30 years. You can see some of the kinds of diseases that they're working on. They're talking about acute myeloid leukemia, for example, and they're having great success in dealing with this disease along with many other genetic diseases. And that third home run stock was Upwork. Upwork is a pretty simple business model. They're just connecting talented people with businesses that need talented people. The only twist on this business model is that these talented people don't necessarily have to be within driving distance of the business that they're being connected with. Upwork is creating a network of people that can work remotely from anywhere in the world with companies that are located anywhere in the world. They're doing all kinds of interesting things with contract work, with staffing of small companies, medium-sized companies, and especially with extremely differentiated staffing of large companies. If you haven't heard of it before, take time to look at the investor relations presentations for all three of these companies. These are not the kind of companies that constitute 70% or more of your portfolio. These are not the kind of companies that we sit and chant up, straight, and parallel on. But these are the kind of companies that Mr. Nicholson talked about when he suggested that once your portfolio reaches a certain size, and that was going to be open to interpretation, and once you learned about investing, and again, you have to self-evaluate if you're ready to do this kind of investing, then there was going to be room in your portfolio for what he called non-traditional investments. And that would include looking at companies without earnings at the present time, looking at startups, looking at turnaround situations, looking even at bonds or at ETFs or at mutual funds or even at commodities or cash. Mr. Nicholson suggested that 20 to 25% of your portfolio, if you have the experience and the portfolio size, could be devoted to this type of non-traditional investing. Do you have to? Absolutely not. We know plenty of successful investors that are just dealing with up, straight, and parallel, and they're making money in a way that just amazes Mark and myself. But if you're looking for non-traditional ideas, these are three pretty decent ideas coming from Cass City Her. Next slide, please, Mark.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what Mr. Nicholson and the others would say about cryptocurrency. It'd be kind of fun to listen to.
A year ago, I would have just out of hand rejected the whole concept of cryptocurrency. And I will admit that there are parts of me right now that once I understand how the IRS is going to treat it, there are parts of me that say maybe I want to dabble my toe in the water as well. We'll have to see. Cass City has always been a really strong contender in our contest, and that's why I've not only given you their 2021 portfolio, that's the one where they won the contest on top, but I've also given you their choices for 2022. You might want to sit down, take a look at the names that are in their 2022 portfolio, because these ladies have continually scored in the top 5 or 6 in our contest, year in, year out, year in, year out. Next slide, Mark. I've looked at our club dashboards as an aggregate, and I've chosen the top 10 stocks from the 2022 close. And here they are with the kind of return that you might expect going forward. These were the top 10 performers in the 2021 contest. And you can just look at the names. There might be a couple that are still interesting, but because they've been top performers, they might not have a lot of juice left to perform going into the next year. Moderna, for example, was a wonderfully performing stock in 2021's contest, but the par for Moderna, because it's been doing so well, is down to only about 6%. Where I find really good ideas from the contest is to look a lot of times at the stocks that did not do very well during the 2021 contest. And that's the next slide, Mark. Here's Moderna, by the way, and I think that many of you understand that Moderna came up with a new way of delivering a vaccine called messenger RNA, and it really made that stock take off. The Moderna vaccine is going to be used and going to be around for quite a while. and the projections for this company are very optimistic, but nowhere near the growth that you've seen for the last 2 years. Next slide, Mark. Here's this bottom feeders, and I really like to look at the bottom feeders. I've circled one down there, SAVA, and it's not even covered in Manifest yet because it has absolutely no earnings. And because it doesn't have any earnings, it's very difficult to come up with a par value going forward, a potential annualized return value. But look at some of these companies that I've circled. Emergent Biosciences. That's not going to be the last time you hear that name in this conference, I guarantee you. Mercury Systems with a very high quality rating and a very high par rating attached to it as well. And Zoom Video. Maybe the days of Zoom are catching up to it. Maybe people are fed up with Zoom, and maybe the competition is catching up to the whole concept. But Zoom right now has a par up around 20%. I skipped over the Chinese company Alibaba at the top of the list because the Chinese government seems intent on beating down some of its best performing companies and shaping them into companies that don't do nearly as well as they were doing previously. Let's look at this Sava. Again, I'm looking for interesting, non-traditional ideas. And if you're looking for a player in the Alzheimer's space, then look at Cassava Sciences, SAVA. I'm no expert when it comes to dealing with drugs and all the research and all of the vocabulary and everything, but I think any of you would find the investor presentation that Cassava has on its website, I think you would find it extremely interesting. And I really like the last bullet of this set of 4 bullets that I've pulled off the opening page of the investor presentation. The programs are being developed with scientific and financial support from the National Institutes of Health. So they're getting a lot of their support from the NIH. That means, at least in my reasoning, that there must be some pretty good science behind what they're talking about. Not enough time to go into the kinds of things they've discovered, but you might want to read their presentation and decide if a small amount of money in a very large portfolio might have a place with a company like this. We call these kind of companies this emerging growth. This one doesn't even have sales, let alone earnings at this particular time. Think about it though. Next slide. Here's the Your Choice portfolio, and for a lot of years, the Your Choice portfolio beat the Standard & Poor's index and beat it quite handily. Your Choice was made up of the top choices from the contest entries. This is the 3rd time, however, in the past 19 years that the Your Choice portfolio lost to the Standard & Poor's index. It's also the largest index number that we've had over the last 19 years. This almost 41% appreciation from November 1st to October 31st of the Standard & Poor's index. This portfolio, the Your Choice, only did 36%, and that's being said tongue-in-cheek because I still think that's a phenomenal return for any portfolio. Notice 2 big losers, a lot of winners, and 2 big losers. Mercury Systems, that's a defense contractor, and Zoom Video, and most of you are familiar with Zoom. Next slide, please, Mark. here's Mercury Systems. I will make the point that I had an extremely difficult time trying to find out exactly what it was that this company did. The website is full of glittering generalities about working for the defense contractors and doing things with space, and that's about as deep as I could get into what it is they actually made and who they made it for. Obviously, a lot of their programs are secret, and a lot of their programs are covered by national security and all different types of covers, so that they can't really discuss what it is they're trying to accomplish. If you're interested, they have a website, but it's pretty difficult to wade through. The other loser, big loser in that portfolio, next slide, Mark, was Zoom Video. And that's a pretty easy website to wade through. I happen to think that the big players in this field, and the biggest player is right now Microsoft, who's setting up a program called Teams, T-E-A-M. I happen to think that that kind of competition is beginning to impact Zoom. That plus the fact that an awful lot of people overused this product to the point where they don't want to do another Zoom meeting for a long, long time. Next slide, Mark. Here's the Your Choice portfolio for 2022. There were 8 holdovers from last year, including Tesla and NVIDIA. Both of those companies did extremely well in the contest last year, and they're holdovers into this portfolio. And also Zoom was picked again as a popular choice by our entries into the contest. You might want to examine this and see if you agree with any of the ideas that our contestants have put into their portfolios. I think that's the last slide for our contest, Mark. Here's the standings in our contest after 6 trading days. And Mark claims I captured it because my portfolio's in first place. Probably that's the reason. But folks, my portfolio doesn't stay in first place very long in these contests. I usually end up somewhere down around 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th. And I confess I don't spend as much time putting the portfolio together as maybe some of the other folks do that are in the contest. This is after only 6 days, and I'm just displaying it to show how easy it is for our contestants to find out where they stand on any day during the contest. We give them directions on how to get to the website, and then once they're on the website, they just have to click a button and put the entries in order from largest to smallest, and they can see who's in first place all the way through 32nd place. It's a fun activity. If you're a Mid-Michigan club and you aren't part of the contest this year, then make a resolution that you're going to get me an entry for next year and add your name to the list. I think you'll enjoy it. It's always great seeing where Mark's portfolio is, where my portfolio is. We have a couple of other personal portfolios on there. They're in italics, and it's nice to gauge how well you're doing against people who you know and against clubs that you're familiar with. So all in all, I want to thank you for letting us celebrate our Mid-Michigan Stockpickers Contest, and I hope you got a few ideas of places that you can go and companies you can look at for non-traditional investing. Let's look now at another contest which I find to be fascinating.
All right, well, as you can tell from that previous slide, pretty good coverage of the whole state, and I'm just astounded and staggered is probably the way to express it, with the amount of investment expertise in your region, Ken. It's just awesome. It's an awesome force. And we basically take that same type of sentiment and take it on a more national scale with Manifest Investing. And we've been doing the contest not quite as many years, but it is nationwide, and we have pretty strong participation. I'm going to focus in a little bit more on the longer term results than the results of any one year. But that is our creed there. When we're talking about Graham, Babson, and Nicholson, we're talking about basically Graham was the mentor of Warren Buffett, and he's renowned for putting together some of the highest level thinking on bringing some math and rationality to investing back in the 1930s. Babson is a reference to David L. Babson. He's regarded as one of the fathers or champions of growth investing, and he was a very strong influence on the National Association of Investors and Better Investing, publishing articles in Better Investing magazine, etc. And of course, Nicholson is our own George Nicholson. And we think that following the kind of lessons that they have taught us over the years is there are no guarantees, but it can stack the odds in your favor. And we have some fun with this one. Our contest runs from Groundhog Day to Groundhog Day, just to be different. Groundhog Day is the day that Manifest Investing was formed, so it's kind of our national holiday. And so we go from Groundhog Day to Groundhog Day. The other difference is we do not do any transactions along the way. We invite people to select between 5 and 20 stocks, and basically just check in with the results a year later. Although we do keep a pretty close tabs on it as the year goes by. Here's a look at some of the individuals. We basically recognize individual champions and groups. This happens to be the individuals. And you can see that there are a number of Michigan entries. You saw Midland on there in a few different places. Bernie Meister's from Midland, so is Paul Witt, a couple of our champions. And you can see that there are other champions from all around the country, going all the way back to the very first contest, Steve Parham and Bo, down around the University of Tennessee. And then I made the mistake that no one should ever make. I won my own contest in the second year, and there's an individual out there who was edged out on like the last day of the year who is still smarting from that and still wounded and talks about it, but actually did edge that out, so I get to claim that. Ann Manning from Houston, outstanding performance in 2010. The late Nick Strategos, what a force in the realm of investing in Pittsburgh. And we continue to see the lessons that he had put forth. Bernie Meister is one of those guys. I believe he's a J-Vester. Is that correct, Ken?
No, Bernie Meister is a member of 660, Mark.
660, okay.
Which is another old-time Midland club.
Okay, so Bernie is always a source of ideas, and he has given me ideas at the breakfasts, and just a great time. Andy Pagoric is one of the volunteers for the Chicago chapter, and checked in with a strong performance. And then the first of our two-time winners, Hugh McManus, has actually finished first twice. He was definitely a biotech swing for the fences participant in this contest, and it's like he's either first or worst. Like he's in last place in this year's contest, but he won a couple years ago. Anna Gombar is another multiple-time winner from Holly, Michigan, and what a joy! And she's turned in a strong performance every year since she started doing it. John Kimmel is basically behind a number of key investment clubs and groups of investors in the Wichita, Kansas area. And as you'll see on the next slide, one of his clubs has actually won it, and he won it individually. So two of our younger participants from Oklahoma, Curtis Sears and Andrew Spector, have won in the last couple of years, and it's just kind of fun to watch the ebb and flow. And I'm always impressed by these people that hover at the top of the leaderboard year in and year out. It's definitely a wondrous thing to watch. Here are the group champions going all the way back to 2007. Lynn Ostrom's club from Minneapolis was the first winner. And then our first three-time winner, Susan Michelik and her Bower City Ladies. Wow. 2008, you can see that they're 2016, 2019, three-time winners, and they're always near the top. You're going to see they're lurking this year on the heels of one of Ken's clubs. Two Rivers out of San Diego won it in 2009. And then there's Ken's entry, not too badly damaged from his individual loss in 2008. He did scramble and win in 2010 on the group side. to qualify. And then we've got our Northern Traders, another multiple time winner. You saw a reference in the slides a few seconds ago. This is one of Herb Lemkool's operations out of Traverse City, Michigan, and they have been a double winner also. And then one of our favorite clubs to talk about, the Broad Assets, winning 3 out of 4 years. That's Ruby Lawrence and her band of investors down there in St. Louis. What a wonderful group of investors. In 2014, the Serious Investment Club, populated by Herb Barnett and Nick Strategos, and they always turned in results near the top of the leaderboard. And then all the way up, you can see John Kimmel's club, Plymouth, in Wichita, Kansas, in 2018, and then a fresh new winner out of Orange County last year. So it's always fun to see where they come from. I am struck by the repeat exceptional performance by a number of these clubs. Here's our current standings with basically 9 months out of 12 in the hopper. And you can see that from top to bottom, some pretty decent results. The late Terry Greisinger, she passed away, and she's now a celebrity entrant. She's kind of running away with things, but everybody else is pretty tightly packed. Nick DiVirgilio has taken over second place, which is basically now first place. So there's a whole bunch of people grouped near the top there. And as Ken likes to point out, there's a few Kavula references there, including 2 of his clubs, Mid-Michigan and the B.I. Baker Model Club. But I would be quick to point out that Bower City is lurking once again. And so are the entries from Herb Lemkool up in the Traverse City area. So not home free yet. And just a lot of wonderful names on there that have finished on the leaderboard many years. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but just some fun that we have along the way. All right. One of the questions that we got at a recent bull session was, well, where can I actually drill into? Because Ken talked about actually checking in and seeing what these people are up to. And from the homepage at Manifest Investing, you can actually click into the public dashboards on the lower right and actually go into the Groundhog. When you do that, you're actually taken to this page, which is basically the scoreboard. And this is all the dashboards that are there, so you can click into any one of these participants' entries. I think I chose Sandy Castor to show off here today because, as you're going to see in a second, Sandy has been at the very top of the leaderboard. She hasn't won in any 1 year, but 3 spectacular results here over the last 3 years. And here is what Sandy is competing with this year, and doing quite well. She's in the top 10 again this year, and with a pretty heavy emphasis on fintech, as you heard Ken talking about, and information technology, and just all kinds of very high technology stocks from top to bottom, and doing pretty well with a 34% return so far over the last year. What does that put her in? Just looking back here. She's actually number 12 on the list, so she's up near the top 10 again this year. So that you can basically check in and see what anybody's swinging for the fences, what type of selections they're making, and just have some fun. I'm always fascinated to check in and see what the Bower City ladies are picking. And of course, I have to check in on Ken and see what I have to choose to beat him year in and year out. So it's a good time. So again, we like to think more along the lines of not so much the results of any 1 year, but this notion of the all-time results. And what you see here is a collection of our champions, either individuals or group champions. I'm not going to name all the people off, but you will see some names that you recognize there, along with Punksy Phil in the middle of the chart. That's John Kimmel on the lower right, Sandy Castor at 3 o'clock there. Herb Lemkool is a new addition to this on the lower left. And there's Anna Gombar on the upper right next to Ken. That's his Wall Street Journal picture, by the way. The investment clubs that you see there are the Bower City ladies down here at the bottom. This is the Broad Assets here on the left-hand side of the chart at kind of 9 o'clock. And this is the Serious Investment Club out of Pittsburgh. So just some wonderful participants over the years. Just for a little perspective, here's a look at how the participants have done. We like to point out that The average result from a groundhog over the last 13 or 14 years has been approximately 16% during a time frame when matching investments would have delivered about 10%. So just an outstanding level of performance. Basically, 60% of the time, the market has been outperformed by the selections made by Groundhog Nation. And this is one of those years. It's a little bit more of a challenging year. Since Groundhog Day, we've actually lagged the market by quite a bit this year. And a little bit more fence swing than we've seen. We have 4 straight years of outperformance and a little bit more fence busting and swinging for the fences this year than we've seen in other years. But one of the things that Ken and I have noticed about these contests, going back now over almost 2 decades, is there isn't a lot of that. There isn't a lot of the just grit your teeth speculation, swing for the fences. There's a lot of quality companies involved in this, and with a very long-term perspective. Many of the clubs that are involved are actually nominating companies and adding them to their Groundhog portfolios are companies that they actually own in their investment club. I know that's true for the Kavulas. I know it's true for Bauer City and some of the others that are out there. And we just love this chart, basically putting into perspective a whole bunch of wonderful investors that basically are beating the market over almost 15 years now. Basically, from left to right, you're looking at the amount of years participating, for anywhere from 3 to 15. We require 3 years to qualify for this list. And then their relative return. That would be the comparison of how your aggregate results have done versus the market over the time that you've been involved. So again, it's basically how the answer to the question, how much are these individuals and clubs beating the market by over the amount of time shown? And we do get the question, who are these knights that show up at the round table? They are in red. You can see Hugh is here. Here's my entry in 14 years. Ken is here, and Cy. All 4 of us beating the market with our Groundhog selections over the last little over a decade. And some of those clubs that you've heard me mention, the Broad Assets, again, wonderful group out of St. Louis. Here's Bauer City, just lurking with some wonderful results. And just check out the results from Bonnie Matter and Nick Strategos and Paul Witt, Andy Pagoric. And then I want to draw your attention to Sandy Castor, because she basically broke the scale. She's actually outperformed the market by an average of 27.8 percentage points per year. So I suspect that I will not be the only one interested in what choices she makes on February 2nd, 2022, just to check in and see what she's up to. Again, I'm not going to go over all the names, but it really is kind of cool that such a large number of people are beating the market, because it's not easy. And there's a lot of really, really gifted and talented investors on this list. All right. One of the lessons that we took away, and we've talked about this extensively at Manifest, and you can check it out in our bull sessions and some of the other educational sessions that we've put together, this notion of looking for how were these broad assets ladies out of St. Louis winning 3 out of 4 years. And this is basically an analysis that we had done, and we think we discovered that they would make a set of core selections, really good, solid companies that we'd be proud to call up straight and parallel core selections, and then they would dabble in a few, we call them launch pad opportunities. And basically they were looking for companies that are just breaking through into positive earnings. And this company, Lynette, is a company that propelled them to a couple of those wins. So they're basically talking about investing at this point, kind of a tipping point in the life cycle of the company. And when you catch them and they work out, they can be explosively good. And just the opposite can happen also. If they kind of stumble out of the block, you can end up with a pretty nasty situation. So if you want more on that subject, more on what the broad assets are doing, and this is part of a lot of our educational sessions here lately, you can actually go to any one of these references, and this one in particular deals with this subject. Anything you want to add to that, Ken, or?
No, and I'm busy answering questions in the background here, Mark. So
okay.
I'm going to let you continue.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, I think what all of these contests do is, one, give us a fertile field of opportunities to explore in greater detail, and an opportunity to discover excellent companies, in some cases very early in their life cycle. And again, we know better than to just buy something as a hot stock tip. We're going to subject it to the same type of analysis. We really care about what the outlook for the company looks like, and what the return forecast is in your stock selection guide section 5. And if you do assume ownership, to maintain that ownership and stewardship for as long as it makes sense to do so. And I think that's just about it. Yep, just wanted to let you guys know we are at about an hour. The next session does begin in an hour from now. That is our 20 questions, although I'm going to confess and say there's no way that Ken and Cy and I can do 20 questions in an hour. And you're going to discover that here in a little bit over an hour. So with that, I will leave you with a picture of the bridge between the lower peninsula of Michigan and the upper peninsula where Tequanimon Falls is. It's a little over an hour from the other side of that bridge. Just a beautiful picture of the Mackinac Bridge between the lower peninsula and the upper peninsula in Michigan. So with that, Ken, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope. We have to get ready for the next program. We're so glad you were able to be with us. I think that I've kept up with the questions and I don't see any hands in the air. So we're going to close this session down and move on to the next one at 4 o'clock.
And we'll probably open up a few minutes for a traditional green room. And I really look forward to it. It's a great collection of topics that you guys have submitted to us. And I can't wait to hear Cy and Ken elaborate and pontificate on some of these issues and topics. So with that,
once more, Mark, if you want the slides, folks, an email to Mark R at manifestinvesting.com. Mark R at manifestinvesting.com, and he'll be glad to send you the slides. Good night, everybody.
See you later.